Namaskar. Hello and welcome to 𝗼𝗚𝗏 channel. This is Sree Iyer and we have a joint broadcast today with Ganesh and let's welcome Gen Ravi Shankar. Gen Shankar, Namaskar and welcome to 𝗼𝗚𝗏's channel. How are you, sir?
Namaskar and thanks a lot. Good morning to everyone or good evening wherever you're watching this. Great day. A lot of things happening. I don't know. You might know better about it. But this thing keeps coming out daily. They say astrologically this is going to be a very fast-forward month because Jupiter is closest to the Earth. I believe at this point of time things happen at great speed, and they are unfolding at great speed. And like yesterday, the Balochistan thing happened. Iran is anyway any day going to go up in flames or not. We don't know. A lot of things happening. And today is going to be the budget. And this budget is going to be important for India from many reasons. And of course, the India-EU trade deal. A lot has been spoken. But I thought, this is also the time to get the anti-Jupiter effect, take a step back and have a idea as to what where are the problems, and that's why
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, just wanted to set some things here. Today is 𝗤𝗙𝗏𝗄𝗼, a very special day for worshippers of Lord 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗥𝗡𝗡𝗥. I live near a shrine called 𝗟𝗏𝗡𝗏, and sir, as much as we see that Hinduism is in danger in Tamil Nadu, come take a look at one of those special days. People are walking bare feet for miles on end to go and have darshan of Lord 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗥𝗡𝗥. All the streets are cut off, massive police presence to make sure everything moves in an orderly manner. And I mean, I'm just like, wow. So there is this. On the other side, there is the other stuff that the ruling government in the state of Tamil Nadu does. We're not going to talk about that. Let's go back to EU. Gen Shankar, we expected this. Remember, last 3 or 4 episodes that we've been talking about EU-India free trade agreement deal. We have been expecting that a lot of people are not going to be happy with this. In fact, I think 27 countries in EU, if I remember correctly. Some of the lower cost producing countries, they are also not very happy. They think their jobs are in danger. So there's internal remorse also happening. And we don't even know the process. Some say if the EU Parliament ratifies it, it is done. Some say no, the 27 parliaments have to ratify it. I don't know. I hope you can set straight all these things. But basically, overall, there is something that is expected. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, at the outset, I don't see many dangers in this deal. And let me put it this way. Logically, EU-India, this trade deal has to be ratified by the EU Parliament and individually by all parliaments. I suppose it's a matter of time that will happen. But equally, if this doesn't happen, based on this agreement, individual countries can open up. So there is a mechanism within that. And in any case, the major thing which we have discussed about the defense and security deals and all that has already started without the EU. The EU is writing piggy bank on our deal or likely deal with Germany and France and Spain. So virtually these leverage each other, right? I don't see problems from that perspective. That's one. Number two, we have to understand that this deal was in the making for 18 years. It started with I don't know which government. Then it was left. It became dead. We tried to go towards RCEP. That became dead. Then we got back. Then it went slow for many reasons. There are 2,000 different reasons you can ask. So only in the past 9 months, they said, let's move ahead. Why? I mean, that's the basic glue between these two entities and this deal. Because look at it from the EU point of view. EU had got stuck badly with China. The powerhouses of EU, France and Germany, were too deeply invested into China and they couldn't pull out. There are no markets. Uh, and the Chinese were undercutting them. On the other hand, the Chinese were asking EU to lower tariffs and get entry. If that had happened, it was suicide. It was political suicide. It was industrial suicide and everything. I mean, EU was done and dusted. On the other hand, you saw Trump. The moment he came, he started, imposing himself on the EU, politically and economically and everything. Greenland has become a very emotive issue. Russia-Ukraine war, and the EU people felt that Trump, with his direct dealings with Mr. Putin, was undercutting EU, and he would sell Ukraine off. And these people, they were not prepared for it. Then many things, he was pushing EU to a wall. He had pushed, in fact, and he had put a trade deal on them, or imposed a trade deal on them, which EU felt was a humiliation for them, right? But the EU took it, right? So between these two, I think EU started looking at India seriously, and as the other deals started coming up, and throughout last year, there were political changes which happened in within the EU, right? Uh, for example, Germany, the major change was driven by the change in government in Germany and Chancellor Merz coming in. And so then we also had that deal with EFTA, Switzerland, Liechtenstein, Norway, and Iceland. So people said, look, there is a way forward. Then UK, we were dealing with UK successfully. The other deals also came in as thing like, yeah, we had a deal with New Zealand, all these like-minded countries, the West, as you call it. So they put up all this spurred EU towards us, and we had a very clear thing that you needed a third way of away from China and you know USA. We had come to a stage where we were no go with both. It was only a choice between two bad deals, right? Politically, it was not acceptable to both in both sides. So I think it was a matter of mutual recognition. So I think it will go through. Having said that, there are issues we have to understand. There are tensions within this, and any deal of this thing. Fundamentally, it's nice to say we are democratic nations, and 2 billion people and this much economy. Yeah, well, that's all the gloss of the whole story. There are internal tensions and there are bad precedents in this whole story, which we have to overcome. So what we'll do is I'll outline this thing, and then we can discuss as to how do we overcome this, right? So first, then I want to you put up that slide, a little slide, which the whole story I want to start from here. This is the photograph of China's rapprochement with USA or vice versa. 72, Mao meeting Nixon. Why am I going back here? Yeah, please take it off. I think I wanted to show this. It happened in 1972, right? And why did USA go there? You see, that's the thing. Why did USA go there? Everyone says that because of break of rapprochement, you can break your break USSR, yeah, all that. Fine. But there was a fundamental reason, right? When you go into history, the US economy was not doing well. US was overproducing. What today we say China is overproducing, US was also overproducing, right? And US felt that which is the two things which China needs. One, it has the market to absorb everything. It has the labor, right? China has the labor, cheap labor, right? And then China has the capacity. If China gets aligned with USA, you can break USSR or contain USSR, whatever this. It happened, right? Now that is the fundamental basis. At that point of time, the choice for USA was between India and China. But USA and China had a lot of great relations earlier. They had a lot of relations. After
USA
all, at that point,
bankrolled the Kuomintang party, didn't they? I mean,
yeah,
Chairman,
they did.
what's his name? Chiang Kai-shek.
Chiang Kai-shek, nationalists, and plus the Korean War, and plus you go back before that, a lot of Chinese labor came into the west coast of Africa. Even now in not Africa, USA, you have this, the railroad, the famous US railroad, which spurred US to greatness, was built by Chinese labor. Right? That's why you have Chinatowns in New York and San Francisco and LA even today, right? So their connect is more. We have to understand that. So they chose that, okay, and they felt India was too socialistic, too. By then we had done the deal with Moscow. Uh, the war had ended badly, so our relations were not good. So this was why they went. But there's something else I want to highlight. Now, I will come to the business end of this whole story. Uh, can you put the slide back again? I'm going to put a set of sequence of events which people have to understand. Look, it was not until 75 that some modicum of trade started with the rapprochement took place in 72, but it was only in 75 some serious trade started. Okay, around 75. Actually, the trade started in 79, but I put 75 for a particular reason. What was it? It went through various stages. In 75, China was all about low-end manufacturing, cheap labor, and a market for USA. Later, it evolved as time passed in the early 90s. China was a copycat manufacturer. Okay, whatever someone produced, you copied it. It was cheaper, low quality. Then it evolved into manufacture of high-end items, but still through a copy. Just copy, identical, but high-end items. From low-end items, they went to the high-end items. Then they went into independent manufacture of high-end items through stolen IPR. They stole the IPR, that's everything, and then they started making their own duplicates. And then they went into high-tech manufacture. And then the evolution, today they are into high-tech innovation. This whole process went over 50 years. That's why 75 to 25. 50 years. Now, it isn't this thing that we have to see where this whole story is going. Yeah, one thing for sure, which have been saying for the past 5 years, only India can replace China in scale and skill. No one else. But there is an issue. When this deal happens, India is not that low-end manufacturing, cheap labor and market which China was. India is a powerhouse of its own kind. This is important to understand. This is an internal dynamic which has to play out. Okay. So the question is, where does India fit in? Does India fit in here? Does India fit in here? Does India fit in here? Or India fit in here? Because we have something of everything. We manufacture high-end items. Of course, we don't steal IPR, right? But we do some things on, um, license production, right? We are into high-tech manufacturing. We are also into high-tech innovation in parts. Okay. So where does fit in? So what are the expectations of EU when it comes here? Is it only trade? What are our expectations? Is it only selling garments to them? See, this mismatch is important. The second, as this trade deal goes forward, slowly the thing will go to that last stage. This is where a rupture will happen eventually. When you are a developed economy, they are also developed economies, and a rupture. Even if you're not a developed economy, even a semi-developed economy, the ruptures will start happening. In the case of China, if you see, it happened over a 50-year period. In our case, it will not happen. It will not. This whole story will stop it in a decade. Just 1 decade. So the time, the I think this is the biggest threat. How do we handle this thing? Within a decade or maybe 15 years, you will find that tensions of this will start. Okay. Perceptions of each other will change. You see, why I'm looking at the US model is EU followed the US model completely. After all, wherever the US went, the EU chaps also went. They followed the same timelines, maybe about 2-3 years later. So, given this, is India a cheap labor market? Will India suit their labor things? Then, of course, you have to see what's happening in USA today. Right? Today, a lot of 3 million Indians are there and in good paying jobs in the high end of their society. That's created its own tensions. You are part of that story. You should know best. So, if there is mobility, manpower mobility being, we can take this off. I'll come back to these later, the slide. So, if you see, this manpower mobility is a feature of the India-EU trade deal. So, that means our people will go there. If things become difficult in USA, right, many people will shift to the EU. That high-skilled manpower will shift to the EU. And I'm sure many people are thinking about it already. So, in which case, tomorrow you might be faced with the same problem in EU as you're facing today in US. So, these are there. Everyone knows it. It's okay, nice to say today, oh, you need each other, we'll go. But the moment you start getting into each other and you start formalizing this relationship to do something, all these tensions will start coming up. They'll not go away. Political tensions. And if you dealt with the Europeans, remember, from a attitudinal perspective, the Europeans are more difficult than the Americans because these Arabs have all the colonial attitudes. Look, there is also a realization within EU that colonial attitude is a dead attitude. Today they are living in a different world, but there are some hard, died in the world concepts which are difficult to remove. So, these are certain issues which I thought I'll put across. I put it in the historical perspective, the internal dynamics between India and EU. Before, there are certain other issues we'll talk of. But I want your views on this because you're part of this deal and, virtually. You have enough experience to comment on this. Over to you, sir.
Thank you so much, General Ravi Shankar. See, one thing you said spot on. In United States, you don't have the past history. Everybody who comes there is an immigrant. It doesn't matter. Even Peter Navarro, his family, his ancestors were immigrants. Trump's ancestors were immigrants. So when you have that, the only thing that you're measured at is what are you bringing to the table? What are you contributing to the company? What are you contributing to the group, and so on and so forth? And that's how you are rewarded. And yeah, if you go up the ladder, then politics takes place, and that you have to pay a price for that. That's normal. In Europe, you have all these past biases that still seep through. Take a look at BBC. BBC refuses to get out of the colonial mindset. So in all our discussions in and around United Kingdom, we differentiate between the English, which are the people of United Kingdom, and the British mindset, which is the colonial mindset. So anything that has British name in it, you can say, okay, Britain is not part of EU, why are you all? Something similar exists in all these countries because they all were colonial.
French, let's look at it. Yeah. No, let's look at it to take care of things. We are also looking at free trade agreement with UK. You see, that's also going simultaneously.
Yes,
so it's the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah, please go ahead. Sorry.
So the French colonized India, the Portuguese colonized India, the Spanish colonized India, The Dutch colonized India and the British colonized India. In fact, I think British were the last, and they were the ones who lasted the longest, mainly because they won 2 or 3 critical wars against the Marathas, who were more or less re-establishing a single empire under for 𝗥𝗘𝗙𝗥𝗘𝗡𝗥𝗏. They were tired because they had fought some very, very long wars, and again, technology beats everything else. Guns versus swords and spears and things of that nature. That's going to happen. So this is how this has happened. But many are indirect beneficiaries of a lot of things that have been put in place over the colonization period. There were, if you want 2 African nations to trade among each other, the whole thing has to go through at least 2 capitals, London and Paris, most of the time, because one was a French colony, the other was a British colony, and the thing settles through that, and that means there is some commission there, there's a cut here, and so on and so forth. So all these things, they're not going to disappear with India. For example, India doesn't have a lot of euros because you have not done a lot of trading. So whatever problem India faced with Russia, India is going to face something similar with Europe also. They'll say, hey, what are we going to do with all the rupees that you are giving to us? I don't know what the trade deal is, whether it's going to be in euros or in rupees. Either one is a problem for India. India has only dollars because that's the biggest trading partner. So there are something, but I think India can be shrewd, and India needs to get the US free trade agreement also done. See, what happens is India has taken a conscious decision. We're not going to choose sides. We are India first. Very good point. So in doing that, you can also be friends to everybody. Nothing wrong in that. But that requires a lot of catwalking. Real smart catwalking. So far, I think India has managed it. As time progresses, will US be unhappy that there is a trade deal in place with EU and vice versa? I don't think so. I think the two can coexist, because both in some ways or the other, they are also tied in the hip. Sir, I'll give you a simple example. What is the most consequential thing today? Semiconductors, right? Now, in semiconductors, the company called ASML, the ASML is the one that sells equipment with which you generate chips with a smaller and smaller and smaller process technology. Now, the interesting thing is, I'm going to simplify it, oversimplify it perhaps, because many of you are semiconductor engineers, you might be up in arms saying, what is Sree saying here? But I'm trying to make it to be understandable by common person. See, think of what ASML produces as something like a fountain pen with the ink included. Fountain pen with the ink included. Only if you have ink can you write with the fountain pen. The thing is, now you separate the two. Who is making the ink? Who is making the pen? The pen is being made by Netherlands, ASML Netherlands. The ink is being made by the subsidiary of ASML, but it's based in the United States. And when the two merge together, when the original company was called Cymer, and I worked there for a few years, so I know exactly what is happening. So unless the ink is produced, the pen can't write. But there are lots of protections there so that the technology doesn't get moved out of United States into Europe. In other words, they have to be in lockstep. These have to keep moving forward. So there are some things like this. Is just one example I'm telling you, viewers. And if you start looking at the automobile industry or heavy engineering industry and so on and so forth, you will see a lot of those things where Europe and United States are tied like this. Now you have a third knot, which is India. And I think India is perfectly capable of not only coexisting with these, but also continue to buy from Russia and continue to buy from China also, at the same time warding off threats along the border. So, but India's work is cut out. India needs some really sharp cookies at the decision-making level who can play these things like a multi-dimensional or a multiplayer chess game and keep thinking 3-4 moves ahead. I think China does that. Don't look at Xi Jinping and say, this is the smartest guy. No. Behind them, see, the whole bureaucracy in China comes from a set of few families. Same thing, I believe, in Japan also. India, it's not like that. It's an open thing. Indian Administrative Service is an open exam. Everybody can take it. In a way, that's good. At the same time, what I'm trying to say is there's a combined wisdom that gets passed on from generation to generation that perhaps is not there as much in India, although many IAS children go on to become IAS officers and so on and so forth. So it's going to be a very interesting theater. At the same time, India needs to keep its eyes on the ball. And I think India is doing a good job. I won't say, it's not doing a good job. It's doing a good job. But how many opportunities will get missed along the process? I don't know. I mean, look at UAE and KSA engagement with India, Gen Ravi Shankar. India has went and done a deal with UAE or memorandum of understanding, but India continues to buy oil crude from Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. So it's a delicate catwalk. Everywhere there's a catwalk. One string on which you have to walk. Over to you.
I like it. So India is a cat which is walking, always.
Yes,
right?
yes.
I go with you completely in what you're saying. What I also want to put across to everyone is, look, like you said, India can do, and it's in India's interest to do a deal with USA. Forget the fact that whatever the political issues are, trade. Whether it will be done or not, we'll see. That there's a lot of politics involved in that whole story. Like what Mr. 𝗟𝗡𝗙𝗿 is saying of late, that we are on the verge of signing a trade deal. Maybe this India-EU trade deal will, leverage that, and that's the best if all three are in a free trade agreement with each other. And what you said is very right. At the end of the day, US and EU are not enemies. They might not be very good friends today for reasons, but they've got 70 years of transatlantic thing. I'll talk about it a little later. But there are certain issues within this whole structure which we need to worry about. I wouldn't say worry about, I would say we should be cognizant of and take action accordingly. The first is there are cases of double speak. Right? What is this? You see, while just a week before the EU deal happened, the foreign minister of Poland was here. Right? And his attitude and general thing was of the old time EU. EU had this sanctimonious attitude towards India. Oh, you and Pakistan should be friends, and we tell you so type. And you should take care of Kashmir, and that fixation of which that foreign minister came here and spoke like that. And this after, mind you, this is after the fact 5-6 months back, I remember our prime minister had gone to Poland. He'd met Mr. Donald Tusk, right? And he said all that. And after that, this man comes here 1 week before the India-EU pact is to be signed. And everyone knew it's going to be signed. It was already announced. By then, the EU Commission was to be the, chief guest in the Republic Day. Everything was there. Despite this chap comes and says, talks Kashmir, for which our external affairs minister had to rebuke him. So these things will come up. They'll go nowhere, right? We have to handle it. So there might be cases where we might have a good equation with the EU, but there will be countries which will not be happy with it. And they will still go in a different thing, and we should expect it. Those 27 countries of EU are not, the same fit. They're different sizes, different shapes, different attitudes, different many things. The second problem, we have now papered over the Russia-Ukraine war. But you're now ending up dealing with both sides. What is the inhibition, say 2 years back or a year back, about taking this deal ahead with the EU? Russia. They came out with a thing that it is either us or Russia. You deal with whom you want. And they put a lot of pressure on us to stop dealing with Russia and go with the US sanctions and all that. But at the same time, they were buying oil from us. They were buying petroleum from us, which was based on Russian oil. They knew it very well. So you'll see this double speak. What suits them, suits them. What doesn't suit them, doesn't suit them. They were buying gas from Russia, but they were against our buying, oil from Russia. Same, very funny. So this kind of a logic, a twisted logic, when it comes to Russia will come up. Why I'm saying this? Because the Russia-Ukraine war is not yet done. It's not going to get done. Okay? The issues are so now intertwined because the Russia-Ukraine war has assumed many layers. One, it is between Russia and Ukraine. The second, it is between Russia and Europe. The third is Russia and USA. And then the third next layer is Ukraine and EU itself have a tension. Okay. And then with to all this, you have got EU, China through Russia. So there are tensions in this whole story, Russia-Ukraine war, are multi-layered. So any escalation of this war tomorrow or any intransigent position taken by either side tomorrow, EU might turn up and say, look, this is what you're doing. We have a different view and we want you to go by us. Same thing, like what you said, you have to be the cat on the wire. And then is there a case where we will have to forego our relationship or dilute our relationship with Russia? So we have to be very careful on this. And you're looking at entering a defense and security agreement with EU as also with Russia. So our policy has to be clear that when we deal with both of you, we are not dealing one against the other. We are dealing for our requirement. If we are buying oil from Russia, it is to meet our domestic requirement. Okay, you are arming yourself the way you want. You can't say that, no, you can't buy 𝗟𝗏 from Russia. Only then, if you stop buying 𝗟𝗏 from Russia, only then I'll give you, say, an engine or something like that. Those conditionalities are something which we should avoid. Why I'm telling this is because as it is, even without these deals, everything, okay, these conditionalities come in. In our defense things, one of the issues which we have a problem, we all have, it's a live problem, we can't wish it away, is that countries which sell defense items and technology to you are very, very chary about where you're going to use it. For example, with the USA insists on an end user agreement. And that end user agreement is based on what USA wants you to use. Many times. Of course, now we've told USA, if that is there, we won't take anything from you. Okay. The second thing is we don't want to become dependent on anyone. Yeah, you want to have your strategic autonomy. So we will deal, our politics are different, our procurement is different, or how we do it is different. And these are things which should be told upfront to everyone very clearly. That's the way I look at it. Now, there's another strange thing, which is coming up and which I think we need to talk of. What's happening in Alberta? Canada also wants to come to us. After all, their energy minister was here, Tim Hodgson. Yeah, he was here. These are the cases of doublespeak. He was talking of energy and uranium being given to India because Canada has uranium. They don't want to give it to USA. They have to give it to somewhere else. So they get trying to give it to us. But for them, Khalistan is a case of freedom of speech and things like that. When it comes to dealing with India, right? But today they are crying because of Alberta, because this is something which you can weigh in. And then of course this Volkswagen, you see that whole fiasco of Volkswagen which happened. It happened in USA, it happened everywhere. So certain things about EU are also flaky. They'll talk one standard and give you another standard. These are all proven facts. I want you to weigh in on this, your views on this. Yeah, muted.
Yesterday night, around 6:30 p.m. IST, Mohan Sonti had talked about the data concerning H-1Bs and the contributions of Indian Americans to United States. Why I'm bringing that is something like that. Million is very, very small. The 1,000 million in the United States. So as a percentage, India is like 0.02 in any one. Surely, if you say that H1Bs are taking away jobs, but what about the 800,000 jobs that were created by the Indian American entrepreneurs? They are creating it for all, for Americans primarily. So this, why I'm saying this dichotomy is, you have to really understand the largeness of things here. And whether it is the Ukraine war, where India is taking crude from Russia and it is refining it and selling diesel back to Ukraine. Russia didn't seem to complain. Maybe they did it privately. I don't know. And everywhere there is a fair amount of dependency, General Ravi Shankar. If they can't do it straightforward, they'll go through another intermediary country and do it. We know how China has done trade commerce with the United States through Mexico, through Vietnam, and through Cambodia. 3 countries, and maybe more in the pipeline. So these things are, you have to take it as the way it comes. What is important is net. Is it a win-win for both sides? You have to create that environment so each side feels, I'm getting something out of this deal. And for this, I think India is perfectly capable with our Sanatani approach to life. I'm not bringing religion. This is dharmic. We are our approach to life, right? So we have that thing. We don't, like for example, take any project that China commissions in any other country. What do? They bring their own materials. They make their own workforce. They bring their own managers, and they build it, and then they start socking you with interest payments. What did the local populace get? Nothing. On the other hand, IIT Madras has gone and created IIT Madras at Tanzania, where the idea is to bring up Tanzanian or African teaching cadre, as well as to help out the students from Africa. After all, it is cheaper to come to one country inside Africa than to come all the way across to India for each student. So this is what Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam comes through in many of our actions. So I think India is getting there to be what I would call as the spiritual leader in the world. Like, you should approach it this way. It may not be like, countries are going to come and say, okay, I'm stuck in this mud. How do I get out? But I'm sure there are, offline conversations where one person is telling the other one, if I were you, preface it with, if I were you, and then, say something. It's up to the other person whether he wants to absorb it and act on it or not. And India is good at playing that kind of game. You look at all our itihasas, right? Everywhere it is this subjectivity where even if I were you is always coming through in these things. Advice is not something that should be just given for free. The other person also should be willing to listen. Otherwise, it just falls on deaf ears. So India has an important role to play. And you will get brickbats, just brush them off. Sir, every 3 months I'm in India, I see something better. I see something even more nuanced. People are much more, educated and receptive to new ideas. This is not something that, you can stop. I think India is, of course, is going to be accelerating compared to other countries, because you are starting at a lower point. That's the point. And everybody will start rising up to the place. Like you said, in 15 years, I think India will also be doing a lot of high-tech stuff, and then the friction will be there. How you manage, how you navigate is, something that you have to play out. Certainly, I think India is at a point now where it can successfully navigate all these things. Not going to be easy. By no means is it going to be easy. But look at the people who are handling the deal. That one answer that 𝗟𝗏𝗍 𝗔 gave for artificial intelligence, the man knew the information in his fingertips, because you don't know what you're going to get, right? You're like a gladiator in the ring, and the other person is like a lion about to devour you. So these are things that don't come unless you have complete knowledge over the subject. I saw another one where Hardeep Puri got hit between the eyes with a thing about petrol, or Jaishankar also on crude purchases, right? You really have to understand what they are going to be faced and be ready with that. And I think India is doing that in Trump. I'm all praised for that kind of thinking on your feet. Over to you, sir. I hope this explains.
Yeah, it explains quite a bit. There's another thing, which I wanted to put across. It's expectations. You see, uh, we also have to understand this India, US, EU, or for that matter, India, US, or India, UK, or all these trade deals. Uh, they have they they are loaded with the baggage of expectations. What is the expectation? It's not on India. Everyone wants a comparison with China. Oh, we were in China. China did this for us. You must do it for us. The comparison with China is something which is going to, even in India, we say, oh, when are we going to beat China? Why should you beat China? Let him be where he is beating himself. He's killing himself. Why you want to go his route? You want to adopt his things. What India, what the world, US, EU, Canada, UK, anyone did with China is based on their inter se equations, based on their inter se political equations. These were democratic countries who were doing certain things in a completely autocratic communist country. Okay. Certain things can get done there, certain things can't get done there. But in India, it's the other way around. What can get done very well in China won't get done well in India, or won't get done the way these guys expect. They'll expect, oh, when I come here, I need a place, I need electricity, I need all everything. All I have to, then someone will be there to garland me and take me there and build up my factory, and I'll have a market ready. That won't happen. That won't happen, right? So the burden of expectations are important. Even for us, we shouldn't expect too much from EU. Don't expect a highway. Whether you want to go and do business from there or from here, don't expect it. That burden of expectations is something. The second thing is expect disruption. China and US will try to disrupt this entire process. And I'll give you an example. I keep getting back to that example. I, I quote this example many times. This is about that sterlite factory, which was there in Tuticorin. Tuticorin. What is this factory all about? It was producing copper. At that time, India was exporting copper from the sterlite factory. Today, it's not there, it's closed. The factory is there, it's closed. What happened? There were some cases of pollution, some cases of death, some cases of cancer developing. That was a pollution factor. Then the locals got involved in it. NGOs got involved in it. Then the NGOs got involved, and then the local politics got involved. Once the politics got involved, the opposition in Tamil Nadu at that point of time got involved with the state politics. So it became state political. And then somewhere the center and the state came at loggerheads with each other. In between, there are a few deaths. The criminal case also came in, right? And in the entire process, this thing spread out for a year or two. Finally, what happened? That factory got closed. So there were layers of disturbances. Layers. They were religious. The church also got involved in this. You know, so there was environment, there was church, there was local politics, there were NGOs, there were center state politics, district state politics. All were operating in different layers at the same time. Factory got closed, right? What are you today? You're a net importer of copper. Who's the net exporter of copper? Where do you import from? China.
China.
This is the disruption we should expect. The Germans might set up a factory here. This kind of a story will start. Okay, so this will come big time. And if our equation with USA doesn't change, okay, expect USA also to join the bandwagon with China to destabilize these things. And it's very difficult to attack a nation like India. militarily. It's easier to do this. Labor problems, environmental problems, local ethnicities, all these can, communism. They exploit illegal migration. We have a lot of fissures. We have a lot of fault lines. All these will be exploited by anyone who's inimical to India. Even Pakistan will do it. For Pakistan, though, it's free of cost. Anything which goes, whether they'll help China and India to do this. Okay, this is something which we have to understand. Pakistan will jump into anyone's bed to ensure that you have a problem. So one way of looking at it is everything will be nice, but the other way of looking at it is you expect disturbances, and these will be internal. So what does it demand? It demands internal reform. It demands good center-state relations. It demands a good political climate. It's good to have competition between Tamil Nadu and Maharashtra or Tamil Nadu and Gujarat for competitive industrialization, but it should be only that. The moment we get into the other, I'm coming to that. I want your comments because I can understand what this thing. We will be in huge problems. And I think this is a live problem. This is not with EU. This is not with this thing. This is our problem. Right? We are vulnerable to this. I want your views on this, Sree Iyer ji.
Thank you, sir. And see, some things don't get said much, but I have to tell this thing because I don't know how many of you know about this story. Early 2000s, Jayalalitha was the Chief Minister of Tamil Nadu, and at that point of time, Narendra Modi was the Chief Minister of Gujarat, and they used to get along well. As you know, you have all these conferences that take place in New Delhi. All the CMs come in, make their presentations, things like that. Jayalalitha was working on a deal where Ford was going to come and manufacture cars in Madras or Chennai. The reason is, there is Ashok Leyland Motors. There's a history of having done automobile manufacturing in Chennai. That was the place that everybody preferred. Everything seemed to be swimmingly going well until suddenly she woke up to the news story saying that Ford has decided to set up the plant in Gujarat. And then the next time they met face to face, she asked him, Modi ji, what happened? What did I do wrong? How did you steal this deal from under my eyes? And he explained to her, look, you have a coterie around you. This coterie is working on cross purposes against you because they want you out and they want to grab power. And then he said one more thing. He said, my information is that you are being slow poisoned by this same coterie. I will send you my personal physician and an attendant to keep you safe. This happened, viewers. You have to go back and read vernacular and you'll understand, because many people will try to paper it over. My point in saying all this is she felt that she should have got that. And how did it go wrong? The coterie around her was asking excessive demands. And they were like, preventing access from to the Ford people to Jayalalitha. On the other hand, Modi is like, take the land, take this thing, I need it, when can you sign? He was doing it very, very fast. So these kinds of things need to happen quickly. Even now, I'm seeing some deals that that are supposed to land in Tamil Nadu going to Andhra Pradesh, some go to Telangana. This competition is good, but you shouldn't be a one-way street. You should win some, you should lose some. At the same time, you need to work hard. And everybody can win once this largest happens. With all these deals, business is going to come screaming at all the established players, especially states like Tamil Nadu, Karnataka, Andhra Pradesh, Telangana, Maharashtra, Gujarat, now Uttar Pradesh. These are the states that are going to really get a lot of business because there's an established presence, there's an experienced workforce, and so on and so forth. Work together, not work at cross purposes, guys. That's all I wanted to say. So over to you.
Yeah, I agree with you. Though, I'm not bothered about the competition between two states. I'm bothered about our own internal reforms, your labor laws, even things like farm laws. You see, just think, if those farm laws had gone through at that time, when all those fracas happened, today your ability to deal with EU or anyone on agriculture would have been far more better. Much, much better. it would have benefited our people. We didn't go through. I'm not talking of BJP or anti-BJP or something. The worst thing, and look at it the other way around. As much as the opposition ensured that rather put up a lot of resistance to those farm laws, I think even the ruling government failed in its duty to implement those farm laws, which they wanted. See, why did it fail? Ultimately, if you see acid test of its failure, was not in handling those farmers. It failed because there was no political consensus. And the political consensus between the ruling party and the opposition is important. What is the this is a cancer in our country. The opposition blames the ruling party blames the opposition. And unfortunately, the divide amongst a lot of people is they treat the opposition as anti-national. And the opposition also treats the thing in a different manner. I can't define it. It is not a matter of we all grow together. I think that's a bad thing. And that I think will be a huge danger as we go along. If for internal politics, if for the lack of vision, right, and that we cannot meet the other side of the political divide, then we're not a good democracy. That's a fundamental thing. And if you're not a good democracy, none of this progress will happen. That's a basic thing. It's not a matter of Jayalalitha or Mr. Modi or Mamata Banerjee and all that. And they are leaders. After all, at the end of the day, they lead, they win, all that. You might talk ill about Mamata Banerjee. The fact that she's won so many elections from so long, she's not defeated, itself is a testament to the fact that she's a leader. You cannot ignore her. I go back, the river water sharing agreement between Bangladesh and India. At that time, when Manmohan Singh was the Prime Minister and he wanted to sign it, was hijacked by, or rather, undercut by Mrs. Mamata Banerjee. Why? Our center-state relations are poor. Our interpersonal equations between politicians was poor. Our politicians were not on the same page. And that is a live problem. We're not running away from it. Okay? You can't have competitive politics going across into international relations and external issues. Right? Internal strength is important. Right? So that is something which worries me often. Right. We have this graphic again, Shreyas,
Sure.
before we finish up. Yeah. Yeah, we are in the big league now. Remember, India has to deal with China, EU, Russia, Japan, USA, Middle East, Global South, and ASEAN plus Australia. We are going to have FTAs with all these people in due course, or some of these countries from these places. Not China, of course. China, there's no question. Right? So we have to. It's not as if the India-US EU deal is the only deal in town. So we have built hedges around against the EU deal also. Remember this. Our deal, I've not put Brazil out here. Brazil is another big player who is going to come next month. President Lula is going to come here. And of course, there are other places like, when I say Middle East, I'm talking of UAE and even Saudi Arabia. We are talking across the divide out there. And with Israel also thrown into this mix, the IMEC coming through, our options are opening up hell of a lot. Yeah, thank you. If our options are opening up hell of a lot, the speed at which we go will also be very fast. And that has a problem of its own kind. Can our economy take all that? Because if you see, ultimately there's a relationship between economy and corruption. When your economy goes too fast, the corruption also starts rising. Whether you like it or not, this is law virtually. So I think we need to, the government also, while it's great to conclude FTAs with all these, delivery is important. Balanced delivery is important. Don't lose sight of the fact that, pollution and things like that are a problem. Don't lose sight of the fact that internal political divides have to be bridged. Don't lose the sight of the fact that we have to do internal reforms. So these are the things which I thought I'll put across. You have any views, please come across. Otherwise, I'm done.
Thank you so much, sir. I just want to do a few acknowledgements and then we can wrap it up. I think it was a perfect discussion, sir. First one is 𝗏𝗙𝗙𝗫 Shankar. Thank you so much for becoming a new member. Then Deka Nalini also has become a new member. Thank you so much. And Murali Gopal has given a super sticker. Looks whole global fabric will collapse and confuse. Will USA be the new UN, sir?
No, I don't think so. USA is far from being the new UN. See, that's what Trump is doing with this Board of Peace business, but it is failing at this point of time. Yeah, it will not happen. Yeah.
Thank you so much, sir, and thoroughly enjoyable discussion. Viewers, I hope you liked it as much as General Shankar and I did. We'll be back again Monday evening, the gunner side, with a new episode. Things are heating up in our neighborhood as well as, in our neighborhood mainly. And once again, looking forward to seeing you again tomorrow, sir. Namaskar.
Namaskar.